how did the One Piece world get the way it is? What's happened in this world that looks so artificial, that has dinosaurs, lost ancient civilizations with the technology to travel into space, and a whole century of history completely missing from the books, during which the world changed forever and fell under the tyranny of the celestial dragons. For over 1,000 chapters, we've now followed the adventures of Straw Hat Luffy. But what's happened before he set sail on his journey? We've gotten tons of bits of pieces, from characters' tragic backstories to glimpses of ancient history, but with so much lore in the story at this point, it can be hard to remember all of those details. So today, we're going to go over the official timeline of everything that has happened in One Piece before Luffy finally set sail. We're gonna cover everything up to Roger's execution, and if you enjoy that, well, we can cover the Great Pirate Era until Luffy's journey in the next video. Like, I don't know if you knew this, but One Piece has like a whole lot of story before the story. A long time ago, long before we have any official record keeping in the One Piece world, we know a few things. We know that there were once dinosaurs that ruled the lands that have now mostly gone extinct. Now they just survive in pockets of the Grand Line, such as Little Garden, and of course they live on in ancient zone fruits like those possessed by the Beast Pirates. We also know that long before we have any official dates, there was an advanced civilization on the moon that appears to be the ancient ancestors of the Sky Islanders and perhaps the Lunarians. But now though, we're still waiting for confirmation on that. Maybe our favorite archaeologist Nico Robin will be able to help us out with that one. So far so good, but now let's actually get to events that we have actual accurate dates for, thanks to Eiichiro Oda himself. Let's start with the oldest known event in all of One Piece. For this, we have to go back a whole 5,000 years with the planting of the Tree of Knowledge by the ancient residents of the island of Ohara. Hi, that's me. Remembering that the tree was 5,000 years old and that the library contained so much of the knowledge from all those millennia makes Robin's flashback and that tree burning down just hit that much harder. Well, moving up a whole millennium from the Tree of Knowledge, we move to Alabasta, where the palace in Arubana was built 4,000 years ago. It would make sense that Alabasta would hold some of the oldest known events, since we do know that Alabasta was one of the kingdoms that originally formed the world's government, like many centuries ago. And in Alabasta, we also learned a few pieces of its history from Robin. When Crocodile has her decipher the poneglyphs, she didn't tell him that it holds information about the ancient weapon Pluton. Instead, she recites some other pieces of Alabastian history from her memory. However, we're not exactly sure when these took place because they're dated according to a different calendar than the standard calendar used in One Piece. Fun fact, did you know that the world building in One Piece is so detailed that they have multiple calendars? There's like the standard calendar that the story follows that is referred to as the Age of the Sea Cycle. But then according to Robin's information on the alternate Age of Heaven calendar in 239, someone named Kahira conquered Alabasta. In 260 of that calendar, the Betin dynasty of Tamar began its rule. In 306, the Great Toph Temple was constructed, and in 325, the great hero of Altea, Mahmudin, did something. What, we don't know, because Crocodile stopped her right there. Thanks for nothing, realizing that he wasn't getting the information that he actually wanted. Now, of course, it's also possible that instead of reciting actual historical information, Robin was just, lying and making all of that up. Is that really likely? Then skipping further ahead to 1,100 years ago, we have the building of the City of Gold, Shandora, and its prosperous age on the Blue Sea. 100 years after that, we have the birth of Zunisha. And around 1,000 years before the current story, the Minks found Zoe on top of Zunisha's back. So it was already there. And that's, of course, when we're starting to get to the good stuff. 900 years ago, we have the beginning of the Void Century. And I really wish that I could tell you more about what happened in this 100-year time span, but we'll just have to wait for Oda-sensei to reveal the true history. The little that we know is this: the ancient kingdom ruled the world with the power of the ancient weapons. but by the end of the Void Century, they were replaced by the alliance of 20 kingdoms spread around the globe, including Alabasta and Dressrosa, that would become the world government. This alliance that became the world government then proceeded to erase all mention of that ancient kingdom from history, including its name. So the only thing that remains of the kingdom's history are the nearly indecipherable poneglyphs. These are these incredibly old, ancient, indestructible stones with a really old language that were crafted in Wano during the Void Century. We don't know exactly how the ancient kingdom fell or how the world government took power, but surely once the story reaches Laugh Tale, we're in for some real bombshell revelations. What we do know is that during the Void Century, there was a figure named Joy Boy who played a central role there. His comrade, the elephant Zonisha, committed some terrible crime and was sentenced to walk the ocean endlessly for a century up to this day. During this time, Joy Boy also broke a promise to the leader of Fishman Island to work with Poseidon to raise the Noah. And it was also during the century that Lady Toki used the Time fruit to fling herself into the future, where she would then meet Kozuki Oden. Also during the century, the great city of Shandora then also fell to the alliance of the 20 kingdoms. However, the Shandians remained on Jaya to defend what then remained of the City of Gold. And now, after the Void Century, 800 years before the current story, all of the rulers of the 20 kingdoms who formed the world government leave their home countries to reside in Merijua, where they and their descendants become the Celestial Dragons, the ruler of the world. That is all but the rulers of Alabasta, who remains on the Sandy Islands. However, it does include the Don Quixote family, who leave the kingdom of Dressrosa, at which point the Riku family became its new monarchs. The Riku family delivering an apology to the Tontada, who had been enslaved by the Don Quixote family. 100 years after the ending of the Void Century, which brings us to 700 years before the current story, in this century the world government orders the construction of a bridge on Tequila Wolf, which is for some still unknown purpose and is still being built to this day. It's exactly where Robin was teleported to during the time skip. Jumping ahead to 500 years ago, we have the life and death of the ancient giant Ors, whose body is preserved in the icy Nordlands. Who knows, maybe he would have survived had he had pressed the flaming red box that is the subscribe button. We'll never know. 400 years ago, the adventures of Mont Blanc Noland begin. This legendary adventurer travels to Green Bit, where he becomes a hero to the Tontada. Later during this voyage, he arrives on Jaya, where he befriends Kalgara. However, 4 years later, when he tries to bring the king of his country to the City of Gold, Shandora had already been shot into Skypiea by the Knock-Up Stream. Thinking Noland a liar, the king has him executed, tarnishing the Mont Blanc name for centuries. 300 years before the current story, the Germa kingdom, Sanji's family, was at the height of its power. The Germa Empire spanned the entirety of the North Blue for 66 days. And ever since, they've longed to grow their power to something resembling this previous state. Make Germa great again, I guess. 200 years ago, the world government forms an alliance with the Fishmen, and the Ryugu kingdom attends its first reverie. However, they would not attend another one for over 200 years until the most recent reverie. Turns out, racism isn't quenched that easily. Now, 100 years ago, we finally start to get some much more familiar characters and events. With lifespans the way they work in the series, we'll start to see a lot of people who appear in the story or who get more fleshed out in flashbacks relevant to our timeline and main characters right now. And that of course starts with the beginning of Dory and Broggy's legendary duel on Little Garden. This also leads to the spreading of the giant warrior pirates. Without their two captains, the remnants are captured by the Marines, but Mother Caramel convinces the Marines to let them go. After returning to Elbaf with the giants, Mother Caramel founds the Sheep's House Orphanage, basically a front for her human trafficking ring. 81 years ago, we find ourselves in Wano, where we'll be spending a considerable amount of time for the rest of the timeline. This is when the head of the Kurozumi poisoned the other daimyos of Wano Wano to try and attain the position of shogun. However, with the birth of Kozuki Sukiyaki, the Kozumi clan loses all its power and its members are hunted down, beginning the long feud between these two houses. 63 years ago, a young Charlotte Linlin is abandoned by her parents on Elbaf and taken in by Mother Caramel. Caramel plans on selling the powerful Linlin to the Marines after witnessing the toddler easily dispatching several fully grown giants. And on Linlin's 6th birthday, she ate a delicious croquembouche with a side of Mother Caramel and gained Caramel's devil fruit power, the Soul fruit. Together with Streusen, who found the lone Linlin, they founded Totland and Whole Cake Island. 59 years ago, both Kozuki Oden and Kaido are born. Funny that they're the exact same age. Thus began Oden's wild childhood exploits and rise in his infamous reputation. During Oden's childhood, many other significant events happen around the world as well. Shimotsuke Village is founded in the East Blue. The Rumba pirates also befriend Laboon and leave him with Crocus before meeting their very tragic demise in the Florian Triangle, the only survivor being Brook thanks to his devil fruit. Meanwhile, the giants Oimo and Kashi are tricked into working for the world governments. And so while Oden's notoriety increases, so does Kaido's, with the Vodka Kingdom declaring him the ultimate soldier and attempting to sell him to the Marines for admittance into the revelry. Meanwhile, while Oden is creating a harem and Kaido is escaping from the Marines a number of times, a young Charlotte Katakuri tries donuts for the very first time. Soon after, he tears open his mouth, eating too many of the tasty treats at once. Ouch. 44 years ago, Kaido joined the legendary Rocks Pirates. Presumably around the same time, other pirates such as Big Mom or Shiki join as well. Just 2 years after that, Shaki gives up pirating and starts a bar on Sabaody Archipelago. 39 years ago, Oden is exiled from the Flower Capital, but then he reforms Kuri and becomes its new daimyo. In the very same year, the Raja Pirates become the first crew to make it to Lodestar Islands. Officially, the furthest point you can go in the Grand Line so far. 38 years ago, the God Valley incident occurred. When the Rocks Pirates attack God Valley, home to the Celestial Dragons, Garp and Roger join forces to fight them. During the battle, Rocks presumably dies and God Valley completely disappears from the map. Afterwards, Garp is hailed as the hero of the Marines. Also, Kaido gets his legendary devil fruit there, and the Raja Pirates discover a small red-haired child in a treasure chest. 5 years later, or 33 years ago, Don Quixote Homing gives up his position as a Celestial Dragon and takes his family with him from Marijua. Meanwhile, the former members of the Rocks Pirates, Kaido, Big Mom, and Whitebeard, begin recruiting members for their own personal crews. Back on Wano, Inuarashi, Nekomamushi, and Kawamatsu become Oden's retainers. Then, 30 years ago, Oden meets Whitebeard and joins his crew along with Nekomamushi, Inuarashi, and Izo, and while sailing, he also meets his wife, Toki, who, as you remember, traveled into the future all the way back from the Void Century earlier. Meanwhile, much more important to the story, Monkey D. Garp punches Don Chinchao so hard that he rounds out his head. 28 years ago, Roger discovers that he has a terminal illness and the Raja Pirates set out on their final expedition through the Grand Line. The very same year, Nico Olivia also leaves Ohara in search of the poneglyphs. And 1 year later, while on the Grand Line, the Raja Pirates face off against Shiki and the Golden Lion is left with the most unfortunate hat of all time. 26 years ago, Neptune becomes the king of the Ryukyu Kingdom. Pound was kicked out of Big Mom's kingdom, and young Frankie, at this time known as Cuddy Flam, was abandoned by his parents. But most importantly, this is the same year that the Whitebeard Pirates and the Raja Pirates had a battle for the ages that lasted 3 days and 3 nights on an unknown location. Oden leaves Whitebeard and joins Roger's crew for the last leg of their voyage, but meanwhile, Orochi overtakes Wano with the backing of Kaido and the Beast Pirates 25 years before the present story, and the Raja Pirates make it finally to Laugh Tale. Having conquered the Grand Line, Goldie Roger is given the name of the Pirate King and disbands his crew. Finally, about to die from his disease, Goldie Roger turns himself into the Marines. At his execution, maybe the best media stunt pulled ever, he reveals to the world the knowledge of the One Piece, inspiring hundreds of thousands of new pirates to seek his hidden treasure. Thus begins the Great Pirate Era. Now, all of this history really leaves us with more questions than answers. Plus, there are tons of other unresolved mysteries out there still needed to be answered, like who is Luffy's mother, where is Laugh Tale, and what is the secret of the moon? If you also crave an overview over all these questions that are still open for answers, well, you shouldn't miss out on this video right here then.